Hello, I'm Tyler Tully. Microba Life Sciences is advancing health through new solutions developed from the human microbiome, delivering novel diagnostic solutions and generating multiple therapeutic leads to address unmet needs for major chronic diseases. I'm joined now by company CEO Dr. Luke Reed. Luke, Microba is focused on helping people with chronic health issues through the microbiome. What is the microbiome and how can you help these individuals?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Well, I'll start by saying your body is home to trillions of tiny microorganisms, and they're absolutely essential for your health. In fact, they are so essential that there are now more than 21,000 studies showing that they are key to both how we develop and can treat chronic diseases. Now, most of them, in fact, about 95% live in your gut. And we call that ecosystem of organisms your gut microbiome. So that addresses the first part of your question. For the second part, how can we help people with chronic health issues by harnessing those tiny organisms we call your microbiome? First, it's important to recognize that today, chronic diseases affect 6 in 10 people. That includes cancer, depression, diabetes, bowel, heart, and many other chronic conditions. Key insight number one is that the gut microbiome is implicated in all of those chronic conditions. And the second key insight is that there are now over 150 studies demonstrating that if we change the gut microbiome, those tiny organisms in our gut, we can improve and even treat chronic diseases. So from that, our founding vision at Microba has always been crystal clear that testing and monitoring your gut microbiome is going to be a routine part of health and disease management with your doctor, like a blood test is today. And that novel microbiome therapeutics are going to be discovered, developed, and commercialized and routinely used to treat chronic diseases. And at Microba, we're making both of those, both microbiome testing and treatment, a reality. We are commercial stage, already generating revenues. We've been doing that for 6 years now. We grew revenues over 120% last year. We recently launched 2 diagnostic testing products, opening up a $25 billion new diagnostic category. And in parallel, we've discovered and developed novel microbiome therapeutics addressing an aggregate market worth over $50 billion.
So in your diagnostics business, you mentioned you've recently launched 2 novel diagnostic tests, these being MetaXplore and MetaPanel. Can you explain what these do and the patients they serve and market size?
With that central impact that the microbiome plays in a range of diseases, there's clearly a lot of opportunity for us to have impact and a lot of problems that we could solve. But today, we are laser focused on applying our technology to help patients suffering from gastrointestinal disease. So why gastrointestinal disease? It's a ginormous market. There's a huge amount of patients. And secondly, the standard of care is very poor. So if I quantify that for you, every year there are 37 million people seeing a doctor with GI issues in the US alone, including severe diarrhea, bloating pain, irritable bowel syndrome, or inflammatory bowel disease. But historically, only half of those patients suffering have achieved a resolution. So how can we help those patients? Well, as I expressed before, many of the answers lie in their gut microbiome. And so to address that, founded on world-leading technology, we've developed 2 tests. MetaPanel for diagnosing gastrointestinal pathogens, which launched just last year across Australia with Sonic Healthcare. And secondly, MetaXplore for diagnosing gastrointestinal disorders, which just launched the year prior. And our real-world data implementing these 2 tests has shown that we can get critical new diagnosis and treatment recommendations now for 52% of those patients who had previously had no path to a resolution. So this is a new diagnostic category, which just for gastrointestinal disease alone, we expect to be worth well in excess of $25 billion across the key markets that we care about.
You've attracted Sonic Healthcare as a 20% shareholder. What excited them about the microbiome space and how do you benefit from their distribution and sales network?
They're attracted by the scale of that opportunity. Millions and millions of patients And by extension, I mean, they're a commercial operation, a $25 billion market just in the first slice. They believe, like us, that this is set to be a major next diagnostic category. Microba is in a leading position at the forefront of it, and they want to be at the forefront of it with us. The best parallels here are with what happened in prenatal genetic testing, say with NIPT testing, which is now a significant market and was an entire new diagnostic category. And I would say the same in terms of cancer genomics and what we've seen evolving over the last decade there, a ginormous diagnostic category. We see this is the next major next diagnostic category akin to that. And so last year we launched MetaPanel in Australia with Sonic, and we've been actively working with them to promote and educate clinicians on that advanced test. It doesn't happen overnight to change clinician behavior, but we're making really great progress together. And the Sonic partnership is global in its ambition. So we started in Australia in our own backyard, but our key focus markets are Australia, UK, and US. And they have strong positions as, number one in UK and number 3 in the US in terms of laboratory diagnostic companies.
And finally, for your therapeutics business, what are you developing to solve what problems, and how far advanced are you on that journey?
Similar to the diagnostic side of the business, in a really prime position at the forefront of microbiome therapeutics. And again, our primary focus is on gastrointestinal disease, but very specifically on the therapeutic side, inflammatory bowel disease, which is a $23 billion treatment market. We have a big data and artificial intelligence powered drug development platform, which is enabling us to deliver a pipeline of novel microbiome-based therapeutics. We've established programs over a number of years across inflammatory bowel disease, but also some interesting areas of immuno-oncology and autoimmune disease. But we've taken that all the way to have successfully completed a phase 1 first-in-human clinical trial successfully for our inflammatory bowel disease lead candidate, which we call MAP315, showing that it was both safe and well tolerated. And right now we are continuing to make good progress across our programs. We are securing the intellectual property for a range of new lead assets at the forefront of this field, coming in particular out of our autoimmune disease program efforts. And we're very active in our partnering efforts, which is evaluating a number of non-dilutive strategic opportunities, in particular to support the move now of MAP315 from phase 1 into phase 2. And importantly, our strategy here is not to be a late-stage drug development company. We believe we have a genuine platform for developing effective drugs from the human gut microbiome. And our model is to do initial preclinical and clinical de-risking and then out-license those assets to partners. And so what could those assets be worth? What are we striving for there? Well, looking at recent transactions like that in inflammatory bowel disease, the appetite from big pharma in that category is really strong. So in the last couple of years, we've seen 5 deals valued between $1.5 to $11 billion in total deal value. So that's what we're driving towards, and that's what we're developing towards.
Luke, thanks so much for your insights, and thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Tyler.